Great, thank you so much to each one of you for your insights. I'm sure they've probably stirred up some questions, so we have a few minutes. So if you raise your hand, we'll get a mic to you for your question. We'll start here with the gentleman in the middle.
Yes, Michael Marshall, Global Peace Foundation. A simple question and a more complicated one. The simple question is it broadly true to say that once a project has been signed off on by Pyongyang, that the project managers are dealing largely with regional and local officials? The more complex question is the relationship between the community of humanitarian aid organizations and the community of human rights organizations. How do you view the efforts of human rights organizations focused on North Korea? How does it impact humanitarian aid work? And what do you say to those in the human rights community who think people in humanitarian work could be doing more to promote human rights issues? Thanks.
That's the easy one.
Just a short answer.
You want to start, or maybe you should? No.
All right.
Yes.
Does this work? Do I need to play,
Yeah,
or is it?
I think
Okay.
just hit the button.
So your first question was how are the programs actually implemented, correct? Once they're signed off by Pyongyang.
Right. Are you mainly dealing with local?
Yes, so it's the agencies that are present on the ground that then on a daily basis work with the authorities at the national level, but also all the way down to local authorities indeed when it comes to more local programs throughout the counties. So yes, there is daily interaction between the heads of the various UN agencies, but also NGOs, but also it goes all the way down to the technical level. All the programs that are implemented are always done in collaboration with the government. That's really important, as the idea is also to pass knowledge to ensure that eventually the programs can be replicated. And something I could have mentioned, we have seen over the last years a lot of replication efforts. So a pilot project that UNICEF or FAO, for example, the Food and Agricultural Organization, who have implemented a number of pilot projects explaining how, coming back also to your presentation, how you can transfer seedlings and make them grow faster if you put them under greenhouses or things like that, have then been spotted by local authorities from neighboring villages who then have replicated there. So it's important that it is remembered that we do that always together with the government. It's a long answer to your question, which is yes. Second question, I was wondering if that one was going to come. The human rights colleagues and the humanitarian colleagues. Obviously, we all work together and we interact on a very regular basis, including myself in New York with a counterpart from the High Commissioner for Human Rights, but also with many NGOs, some of them based here, who often come to see me to advocate for further action from the humanitarian organizations to promote human rights in DPRK. I think we are doing our best and definitely are working together to try and improve. I think there's always space for improvement, and there's still a long way to go. But I think there are a few signs that there has been progress, in the sense that there is more and more reference to human rights in this document. If you compare this one to the ones that we've issued in the last few years, and in particular the first one, there is throughout a reference to human rights and gender. Not specific programs, indeed, targeting human rights, but at least opening doors, I think, for organizations to do further. The second progress I think that is worth noting is when I was there just a couple of weeks ago, at the beginning of May, my visit, not that it had nothing to do with it, happened at the same time as the first visit ever of a Special Rapporteur of the Human Rights Commission to DPRK. So the Special Rapporteur on the rights of people living with disabilities visited Pyongyang, and I think here again it's a sign that there are doors opening, and it's just about going through them slowly. So I think we are doing our best. We definitely work with human rights organizations to try and do more. There's always a place to do more, but we're getting there, I hope. Thanks.
Kathy, do you want to
Perhaps if I could add to that, I mean, there is also a human rights-based approach in development cooperation, and of course, when I was involved in development with the Swiss government, that was very much part of our way of planning, implementing assistance. And that goes from, transparency, accountability, capacity development, participation, gender issues, protection of children, women, and people with disabilities. So there is that approach too. It's not easy to do it, but we are trying. I agree there is a divide between humanitarian and human rights organization, and I do think it goes both ways. I think the human rights organizations could also promote our work a little bit more as we try to promote their work inside the country, which is probably a much bigger challenge.
Great. Okay.
Oh, can I comment on that?
Yes.
I'd also like to comment on the question. The connection, I think, between who asked it? Wait a minute. Right. The connection between the government and the local level aid projects, I think, the connection between the government and the local level aid projects, to a certain extent, depend on the agencies that are working, and also what nationality you are. AFSC is a little unusual in the longstanding relationship we have with KCSWP, and we don't go through the ministries the way some do. On the other hand, the most interesting part of your question is that we face how, once you've developed an innovative technology, do you have it spread in the country, and how does that happen in North Korea? I mean, it's nice, you say, okay, we got 4 farms that do plastic trace. We just have 2,996 to go. So the scaling up is an issue, and we certainly have noticed in agriculture that there are ways that Koreans do this. And so with our plastic trays, agriculture scientists who worked with our farms actually had it approved as an official technology. And we learned a whole lot about the ways that, in fact, innovation is spread in North Korea, and there are effective ways of doing it. And people, there is an agricultural extension service, and people go look and see what neighboring farms are doing too. It just took us a while to learn how to negotiate the system and think about how to incorporate it into our planning instead of just complaining that we weren't able to share these technologies. And I would just say on the human rights issue that I think that groups like AFSC and human rights groups share at core a common concern for the well-being of ordinary North Koreans. We just disagree sometimes about the most effective way to achieve that.
Great. Okay, so we have 2 questions over here. Someone already has the mic, and then we'll go to Christine.
Okay, it's too loud. I am Cassie, and I'm actually from North Korea, and I defected in 2004 to South Korea and stayed there for 10 years, and now I'm living in Michigan. It has been for 2 years. And somebody brought a human rights issue, I am really thankful to those people who are helping the real people. For the human rights issue, when you think about the human rights issue, you are thinking about the prison camp or the right to say freely about the political issue. But to me, as a person who go through the Great Famine, the primary human right is the right to be fed enough. That's the basic human right to me. So I'm really thankful to those people who are helping real North Koreans, ordinary people, to be fed and enough. I'm really thankful to you in that sense. And plus, I have another question to Linda, and I'm really impressed by your word because you mentioned about the people, the North Korean people, who avoid your eyes at first, but talking to you that they want to travel to other countries, it was a crazy innovation to me. It's really good, kind of really good one for me. So you mentioned about agriculture and greenhouses. Is there, and when I was in North Korea too, the main kind of products were rice or corns and veggies, and they are always lack of meat. And is there any other ways you are trying to provide their meat to them, kind of raising cows or things like that?
Actually, the farm managers ask a lot about how to. Well, there are ways that you can raise animals in greenhouses, or you can raise them in conjunction with the greenhouses. So we are asked all the time about animal husbandry projects, and Kathy can probably, on the basis of her experience, talk more about this too. Part of the problem is that pigs or beef, as opposed to like rabbits or chickens or ducks, have a lot of problems in raising them sustainably. And a lot of what the farmers want is food supplements and stuff so they could make huge animals very quickly. And we have a hard time persuading them. I mean, sustainability is really important to us. So I don't know. Maybe you can give a better answer to the question than I would say with that.
Well, when I was with the Swiss Development Corporation, we also worked on the farms. And again, the problem with animals is the fodder. How do you feed the animals if the people don't have enough to eat or are just barely get by? And therefore, there was the promotion of grass-eating animals, geese,
Goats.
rabbits, goats.
Yeah.
There's one or two more. So that's promoted. And the same experience we had when my agency is building greenhouses at schools for disabled children, the deaf or the blind, or children's homes for orphans or children with difficult family backgrounds. So we built greenhouses there, and in some greenhouses they have partitioned part of it off, and back there you hear the pigs. They don't tell you that they are now raising pigs, but you hear the pigs.
That's right.
So they are trying.
Yeah,
But
ducks.
as I said, feeding them is the issue. I think greenhouses are the first step to improve nutrition, because at least they get vegetables and fruits, so vitamins and micronutrients, and that's also important, and some proteins too.
Can I make one more comment? Yeah, you reminded me. There's a competition for resources. Like, what do you use with the rice straw? What do you use the rice straw for? And if you need it to heat your homes, then you can't use it to cover the fields, which is it's a conservation agriculture technique which helps improve the soil fertility. So there's our farms that are closer to coal mines and have ways of heating are further ahead in conservation agriculture because they don't need the rice straw or the corn stalks for things. And in fact, one of the farm managers told us that he would leave the straw on the fields in the winter, and then people would come with their cows and eat the straw off. So, I mean, there are these problems that you really don't think about. He solved it by using straw that had been woven into fences so that, like the animals didn't like to eat it so much. So there are problems in addressing things that would seem simple to answer.
Okay, so we're gonna have one last question from Christine because she's my boss, and we'll cut this panel off so she gets the last question.
I just first want to thank the three of you. It's quite extraordinary. It's not extraordinary that you're all women, but that you are the true diplomats. I mean, I have known Kathy Zellweger. In fact, I just can hear the frustration in your voice as she's been doing this work for so long. I think she's probably been doing this work the longest, first with Caritas and Swiss Development Corporation and now this work. But I did want to end on a positive note, which was, what are your thoughts about Moon Jae-in? So now we have potentially the first female foreign minister, Kang Kyung-hwa, who has said that aid should be given unconditionally from South Korea. So how does that look in terms of a potential major donor now that it's no longer Park Geun-hye and an isolation policy, and in terms of South Korea's ability to appeal to the rest of the world to help their brothers and sisters in the North?
Go ahead. No.
I'm happy to go first on that one. The new foreign minister for Republic of Korea, as you noted, is Kung Hwa Kan, who was before a few months ago working with the SG, was the Assistant Secretary General for OCHA, the organization that I work for. So I know her very well, and I worked with her very closely over the last 4 years because she was my main counterpart from a senior levels perspective, who would voice every talking point that I would write about DPRK. She was the one who actually was the one in the high-level forums advocating. So the first thing I did when I heard about the announcement was sending her a little note to say, I hope you remember everything that we've been talking about over the last 4 years, and happy to resend you any of the talking points we've been working on the last 4 years, and I really count on you. And she immediately responded, as graceful as she is, despite the fact that I'm sure she was overwhelmed with messages in her inbox saying that she will definitely do her best. So from my perspectives, I have great hopes because I know her as a very good person and was also a person who really cares about the issue. So my answer is hopeful.
Well, for me, I do go to South Korea from time to time. I see there are 3 levels. I do hope South Korea will support the UN much, much more, so that the 26% may get up to 50%. It wouldn't be that much money when you look at the scale of things. The second level, I see the NGOs, because I do feel people-to-people contacts are so crucial, because the gap, or the knowledge gap, is so deep between North and South, and the NGOs can help to bridge that gap. And then the third level is government to government, which is probably the biggest challenge. And I also hope that there will be consultation with the aid agencies who work in the country, because it's no longer the situation we had 10 and more years ago. The needs for aid are different today than 10, 12 years ago. As I said, there's no need for big bulk delivery of food and fertilizer. That would actually almost be a hindering factor to the process that has started now for people to find ways to make ends meet. So I hope that government to government will also listen to what the UN and we NGOs have to say before embarking on large-scale aid projects with North Korea. Of course, they are very, very much needed.
Great. Well, I think we'll end there. We're a few minutes over, and we'll have some closing remarks, but please join me in thanking our panel.